We're going to be looking at Glow services, creativity in Glow, WordPress blogs, and then we're going to look into block editor, H5P plugin, useful links, and a top tip to finish off this session. Please note we are not doing a how to get started with Glow blogs. The description for this webinar was particularly focused around the block editor and the H5P plugin. In Glow, as you probably know, we've got access to Microsoft 365. We've also got Google Workspace as an opt-in service and WordPress blogs. When we're talking about creativity, we have a new opt-in service, Adobe Express for Education. There is a QR code on this slide that you can access more information about how to opt in to this service at local authority level. Please note that all these slides will be shared after the session, and they're also tutorials, so you don't need to take loads and loads of notes. So everything I explain this afternoon will be captured in the slides that will be shared as well. So creativity in Glow. When you're using some of the tools in Glow, then absolutely there's creativity opportunities as well. You can use some of the tools in Glow to tell a story, share learning, or build a profile. You can't use up creativity. The more you use, the more you have. So for example, this is a little demo of a WordPress blog. You can see that there's posts on the right-hand side, and there's also some widgets on the left. You can categorize your posts for findability, and you can also use a search at the top left-hand side. There are many different widgets that you can add into your Glow blog, and we will just be looking at the H5P plugin widget this afternoon. So we're going to be looking at block editor and H5P plugin. It will be a live demo, and like I mentioned earlier, all the instructions will also be shared. Block editor. So now when you're creating a brand new blog, you do have the option to choose either classic editor or block editor from down here. Please don't worry if you select the incorrect one, because you can go into the settings and change it whenever you want to. To change it, you click on your settings on your left-hand navigation once you're in the dashboard for your Glow blog. You then select writing. From here, you can then chop and change between block editor and classic editor. You can choose the one that you feel more comfortable using. This is an example of what the classic editor looks like. So you can see it's quite a small menu along the top, and all the information is in this one page here. And then you can go into the text, which is HTML behind it. However, this is what the block editor looks like. Oops. So you can see there's a lot more space, and it just seems to be a lot cleaner as well. But I suppose it's up to individuals to decide which one they prefer. So let's go in and do a little demo of the block editor. So I've got one of my blogs already opened, and this is the My Learning blog. You'll all be familiar with left-hand navigation. And remember, we said we can go into settings and writing, and we can choose either classic editor or block editor. I'm going to leave it on block editor, and I'm going to go into posts. I'm now going to select a new post. So this is my blank page. So this is my editor page for creating my new post. On the top right-hand side, I also have some settings. So let me just put in a title first, and then we can have a look at the settings. So this post is going to be about my spooky story using Google Slides. So I'm just going to pop into the settings at the top right-hand side, and then I can jump into full screen mode by clicking on full screen at the top right-hand side. I can also choose to disable the full screen. If I disable the full screen, it means I can see my left-hand navigation all the time. So if you feel more comfortable accessing your navigation all the time, then you could disable the full screen mode. You also have Spotlight mode, and Spotlight mode allows learners to focus on one line at a time. This is particularly useful for accessibility. We also have a distraction-free, And that takes away all the menus on your screen, so your learners in particular can just focus on the blank white screen and just type one line at a time. To get the menu back, you simply just pop your cursor up to the top and it'll just come back down. So I'm just going to go back into my settings. I'm going to disable the distraction-free mode and I'm going to disable the spotlight mode. But I do quite like to work in this one, this full screen mode, and I'm not too worried about not seeing my left-hand navigation. So now we're going to start building up this post. And I'm going to do that by adding some of the blocks. By default, you can just start typing in the middle of your screen. You will see there's a plus that appears next to the middle of the screen, and this is where I can add some blocks. So when I click on the plus, these are the most common blocks I've been using. But I've also got the option to browse all blocks. At the top left-hand side, I can also add some blocks again to start building the information on my page. And the great thing about Block Editor is it supports all kinds of rich media to support with building up really interesting and engaging and interactive pages. So you can see that all the blocks are divided into either blocks, patterns, or media. So we've got various different kind of text blocks. And you can see there's also text blocks like quote. So if you were doing a literacy post, you might want to put some quotes in there. You've got various different kind of image galleries. And the great thing about the block editor is when you hover over any of the blocks, you get a little demo. So you can see straight away how that's going to look on my page. This is really helpful, so you don't need to add them all the time. This one is an image comparison, which gives the end user a slider where they can slide over two different images. This is really useful for example, a history post. But for this example, I'm just going to leave it as a paragraph, so just text. And I've got my story on my other screen, which I'm just going to copy and paste into my post. So I've got my story now posted into my editor. When I click on any of the blocks, so these are all paragraph blocks, you can see my menu, my formatting menu then just appears. So from here, I've got the option to make any of the text bold, and I can also hyperlink it. There's also a drop-down menu, and there's various other different options within this menu. But I've also got another menu that's hidden on the right-hand side. But to make it visible, I need to select this icon here, the settings. So it's just a square. And now I can access different kinds of formatting options. But remember, you have to select the appropriate block to get the appropriate editing and formatting on the right-hand side. So from here, I can select text color and background color. I can even go into typography. Once I'm in typography, I can choose a different kind of appearance, line height, spacing, letter case. And once I've selected all these different options, they then appear on the right-hand side. So this is where I can make it bold, semi-bold, black, for example. I might want to increase my line height, like so. Okay, so that's the formatting. For this one here, I've actually decided that I'd quite like a header rather than just text. So I've selected it, I've clicked on paragraph, and I'm going to select heading. On the right-hand side, I can choose if I want a large heading, medium, small, or extra large. So I think I'm just going to leave it at medium, and that looks big enough. The next thing I want to do is start adding some rich media. So I'd quite like to add a picture. So what I'm going to do is click on my plus here. Remember, I can click on the top left-hand side as well, and I want to add a block for an image. I can see that the image is already there, so I don't need to search for it. And now I've got a few options. I can upload my image into the media library, or if I've already got something that I want to use, it'll be stored already in my media library. So what I'm going to do just now is select Upload. I'm going to go into my folder that I've set up for this session. And that's not the one I wanted. So let me just select something from the media library instead. This one here, that's the one I was looking for, Google Slides. So I've created this spooky story using Google Slides, and I want to exemplify my learning by creating a blog post in my learning blog. So by default, you should see your menu on the right-hand side, and it's always good practice to get into the habit of adding alt text for accessibility. Once you've done it once in the media library, then it's always there. So I'm happy with this picture. When I select the picture, again, I've got my menu on the right-hand side to customize it even further. I also have my formatting menu that hovers above it. So you can see I can hyperlink this image to a presentation, for example. I can crop it. I can also add a caption underneath. On the right-hand side, I can choose how big I want it to be displayed on my post. I can also make it rounded if I want. I'm just going to leave it rectangular the way it is. However, I think I'm going to make it slightly smaller, maybe 75%, and I'm quite happy with that. However, the next thing I want to do is maybe add a caption, and I'd quite like to link this to my presentation, so my Google Slides presentation. So I'm just going to grab the link from my other document, copy link. I'm just going to highlight my caption here, and I'm going to link it. Perfect. So what I'm going to do just now is I'm going to save as a draft, because I might want to continue working on it. I can then preview what it looks like, so I'm just going to open this in a new tab. So I can see my spooky story using Google Slides. I've got my subheader here, my text with my story, and I've got a nice sized graphic with a link to my presentation. So I'm quite happy with the way that's looking so far. So let's see what else we can do. I'd quite like to add a video. So again, I'm going to click on my plus to add a video block. You can see straight away YouTube's appeared because that's one I used yesterday, or I could have browsed and searched for a video. I use a YouTube one because I've got a YouTube link, but you might have a different kind of video. You might have something in Stream or something in Vimeo, so you can use the video block. You can also upload your videos to your media library as well, but just be careful about space. So I've got my YouTube block, and I'm going to go and grab my link, copy my link. I'm simply just going to paste it in and select embed. There's not much media settings to choose from, so you can see them on the right-hand side. And then you've just got your edit if you decided to change the URL link for something else. So again, I'm going to save my draft, and let's have a look at it. So I'll just refresh my page, and that's looking good. So now I've got my image and my video. Okay, so let's have a look at the other things we're going to do. So when you're creating your news posts, you can have a featured image, and the featured image appears at the top of each post. It looks really nice and entices people to click on your posts. So I'm going to add a featured image to this one. The featured image appears on the right-hand side. When you don't select any of the blocks, you can see that post appears on the top right-hand side. I don't have any blocks selected, so I'm not seeing any menu for my blocks, by seeing the menu for the post. This is where you can categorize and tag your post as well. So let's just do that at the same time. I'm just going to scroll down. I'm going to badge this with literacy and technologies. I've got some tags I've used before, so I'm just going to pop in creativity and storytelling. And that'll support with findability if you are creating lots of blog posts. I now want to add my featured image. So I'm just going to select set featured image on the right hand side. And I can see I've got one here. So I'm going to select it. I've got my alt text already in there. And I'm going to set the featured image. So this time I'm going to select publish. When you publish a news post, you've got a few options on your right hand side. I can publish immediately, or I can schedule a post. This is really useful if you've got a class blog or a school blog and maybe lots of classes are contributing, then you can schedule them so they're going out maybe one a day or two a day rather than all at the same time. But for this demonstration, I'm just going to leave it immediately and click publish. Again, I'm just going to open the tab, give it a wee refresh. And now I can see my title, my featured image, my subtitle, my text, my image, my caption with a link to my presentation, and my video, all in the one post, just using the block editor. So I'm just going to pause for a second just now, just to see if there's any questions in the chat.
There's no questions, Susan, thanks.
Okie doke. So again, all these instructions are in the slides that will be shared. The next thing I wanted to quickly demonstrate was that you can divide your information that you're putting on your news posts into different columns. This helps with spacing out the information, and it's quite a nice way of, for example, uploading photographs. You see them in different columns. So to add some columns, simply click the plus and columns will appear. So for this example, I'm going to select 50% and 50%. So I've got a nice even mix. I add quite a lot of posts onto our Glow Connect blog, and I use the column one quite a lot just to divide the information up. So for this example here, I'm just going to add some text through paragraph, and I'm just going to say image, click on the next column, add paragraph. This time I'm going to say video. And then I'm just going to hover over it. And when you hover over your block, you'll see the plus appears here. So this time I'm going to add the image underneath. I'm going to go into my media library, use my Google slide one again, and it's popped into this column. I'll do the same with the video one. Click the plus, YouTube. Let me see if I've still got that link. Embed. So I'm just going to update. Refresh my page. And I should now see my two columns with my information. So let's go in and see if we can make this a different size so they look a bit more even. This one here, let's just go back to maybe 50%, maybe. Update, see if that looks any better. That's a bit better. Okay, so that example was adding your columns, and then you can add any of your blocks into the columns to make sure your information is divided nicely. Okay, so that was everything I was going to do for the block editor. So let me just go back to my dashboard by clicking on my logo at the top left-hand side. Okay, so I'm just going to pull my presentation up again. You can see that all the information and instructions are in this slide deck that will be shared at the end. And the next one we want to look at is the H5P plugin. So the H5P plugin, you can access it. You have to enable it first through your plugins on the left-hand navigation. Once you go into your plugins, you'll see the H5P over here. You just need to simply click on Activate. You do that once and it will always be there in your blog. Once you've activated your H5P plugin, you can access it on your left-hand navigation, and then you can simply click Add New once you're in there to start creating some content. There's loads of things you can do with the H5P plugin, and these are all interactive tools, again, to really entice people to click into your blog. It's nice to use with learners. You can see there's some flashcards in here, image sequencing, fill in the blanks, drag the words. There's a copious amount of tools in here. There's also a really nice WordPress blog where it provides lots of examples for all these kinds of things. Jackie will be sharing some links in the chat as well. There's some links for Block Editor for more information, and there's also some links for the H5P plugin. Virtual 360 Tour. You've also got some crosswords, AR scavenger hunt, image choice, image slider, lots and lots to choose from. Be quite interesting to find out if anybody's used the H5P plugin before, and if you had, which ones have you been using? So the one we're going to demonstrate this afternoon is the image hotspot. I suppose it's a bit like ThingLink if anybody's been using ThingLink in their school. So once you click on H5P content, add new, then you can search for image hotspot and you have to click install. But again, we'll be doing this in the live environment. Okay, so let's have a look at the H5P plugin. So in the left-hand navigation, you can see I've already enabled it from my plugins. So I'm just going to select all H5P content, and you can see all the ones I've created previously are all stored there. So let's create one from scratch. So add new. And you can see image hotspot is right at the top because that's the one I've used most recently, and it's the one that I have installed. So what I'm going to do just now is just click on details. It gives me a little bit of information, so I can do that with any of them just to get more information to find out how it could be used. There's also demos, and I'm just going to select use. Okay, so now I'm ready to start populating and creating my image hotspot. So the first thing I'm going to do is give it a title. So this is going to be called Local Castles. And just like ThingLink, you need to have a background. You need to have an image that you're going to hotspot. So I'm going to click on Add, go back into my blogs folder, and I'm going to use a map of Grampian. I will say that you can't upload JPEGs. It just gives you an error. So a workaround is upload a PNG. If you use the snipping tool in Windows, it saves by default as a PNG, so that's quite useful to know. So I'm just going to do my alt text for the background. And here it says either predefined icon that's already there by default, or you can upload an image. I'm quite happy to use the icon that's already there. And I've got a choice of a few that you can see on the screen. So unlike ThingLink, when you can use a different icon for the different hotspot, in H5P you have to use the same one for every hotspot. So I'm quite happy to leave it at the plus. However, if you're using this for learners, you might want something like a question mark if it's a bit of a question example that you're going to do for your learners. So I'm going to leave it as the plus. I can change the colour of the hotspot, so I'd quite like it to be blue. And now I can start adding some hotspots. So you can see here I'm now in the section that says hotspots. So the first thing I have to do is actually select where I want my first hotspot to land on the map of Grampian. But you can click on the magnifying glass here to make it a little bit bigger, which is really useful. So the first one I'm going to do is probably Dunnottar Castle down in Stonehaven. So I've selected where I want it to appear. And let's add the text in. Dunnottar Castle. And now I have some options. Do I want the hotspot to link to text, video, or an image? I'm going to do 3 castles and they're all going to link to an image because this might be a research task. Might be for a piece of artwork, for example, that I need to investigate different kind of castles and then create one of my own. So let's just select image. I now need to add my image. So remember, it needs to be a PNG. I've got Dunnottar Castle here and select open. So it's uploaded my image. I'll need to put my alt text in. Hover text as well. So if you've got MD using screen readers, it'll hover over. So it's always good practice to put in your hover text as well. And now I can start populating it with more hotspots by clicking Add Hotspot. Make my map bigger. This time it's going to be Huntly Castle. So I've selected the appropriate location. And we're just going to go through the same process we did previously. Select an image, add the image. So I suppose it's worth highlighting that when you're creating your blog posts, or particularly if learners are creating blog posts, it's really good to have all the information at your fingertips. So all your research, all your photographs, your videos, your text is all being collated beforehand. And again, that supports digital literacy skills. And then you start creating your content. So a bit like if you're creating a video or an animation, you need your script and your storyboard, etc. first. It's exactly the same when you're creating blog posts. Okay, now one more. This time it's going to be Balmoral down at Ballater. Image again, add my image, got Balmoral. My hover text. Okay, so the next thing I'd like to do is demonstrate one with text. So I'm going to add another hotspot, and this time it's going to be Slains Castle. It's round about here, roughly. Add some text. I'm just going to copy my paste, my text. Okay, and Slains Castle was supposedly inspiration for Bram Stoker's Dracula. So I'm quite happy. I've got 3 images and I've got some text. You saw there was video as well, which is quite straightforward, but I'm just going to stick with this just now. So one massive top tip, when you're using the H5P plugin, especially for hotspots, remember to click create. I've seen me creating lots of hotspots. I go away and do something else and I forget and I come out of here and it doesn't save automatically. So please remember to click create at the top right-hand side. Oh, here we go. So I got a little preview, see what it looks like. We've got our hover text. Oops, when I click on it, I can see my pictures are coming in. So how do I get it into a blog post? What I have to do is copy and paste the short code over here. If I go back to my H5P content on the left-hand side, you can see that they're all saved automatically. So if I do forget what that short code is, or I paste it somewhere else, then I can go in and I can grab it again, so it's not lost. So what I'm going to do now is add it into a blog post, and we know that our posts are on the left-hand navigation. And I've got one I created earlier, so Castles of Aberdeenshire. So I'm just going to click Edit. We know now that this is the block editor screen. We know how to add headers. We know how to add text. But the next block I want to add is shortcode for my H5P plugin. So I'm just going to type in shortcode. And it appears. I'm just going to paste my shortcode in there. I'm just going to click Update. Open my post in a new tab. So I've got my featured image that I'd already put in earlier, local castles in Aberdeenshire. I've got some text explaining that it's some research for a piece of artwork. And then I've got my H5P hotspotted image. I can go full screen. And I can see the pictures are coming in. This one first for Donator, and then the last one, Slains, was the text. Once I've finished interacting with this H5P plugin, I simply go up to the top and click the cross. I can't see the cross just now because I've got this sharing bar that's coming up, so let me just click Escape instead. Okie doke, and of course you can interact with it on the post as well. You don't need to go full screen. Okay, so that's us created an image hotspot using the H5P plugin. So let's just go back to edit. Okay. Just checking I've shown you everything. Okie doke. So I'm just going to pop back into my slideshow. Again, we've got all the instructions on the left-hand side. And we've got an example of what it looks like. I've also shared a couple of links with Jackie. He's going to pop them in the chat just now. This is an example of the H5P plugin hotspot for interactive learning. You'll be able to have a wee look at it and click on the hotspots and access the information. The next one Jackie is going to pop into the chat is one that we created for additional support for learning. And again, you can click on the hotspots and get that extra information. Jackie's also going to add some of these links in. So we've got John Johnson in the call this afternoon, who does a load of work around Globe blogs, and he's got his own blogs as well. So there's one dedicated to H5P examples. And like I mentioned earlier, there's also the WordPress one again with lots of examples. So one of the top tips I'd like to share this afternoon, if you are creating a class blog or a school blog, you can also add the accessibility by UserWay plugin on your left-hand navigation. When you add this plugin, you can see the accessibility menu appears on the right-hand side. This allows users to make the text larger, change the contrast, add dyslexia-friendly text, and you can also change the alignment, saturation, etc. So again, that's a top tip to make your blogs accessible. So what have we looked at this afternoon? We've looked at how to enable the block editor, and now you know you can jump between block editor and classic editor from the settings and then writing. We've looked at the settings for block editor. We know that we can have the spotlight mode, distraction-free mode, and full screen mode, which supports all kinds of learners. We then looked at how to add and customize blocks. We added header blocks, paragraph blocks, and we added some image and video blocks as well. We also had a quick look at the columns and how we could divide information into different sections on your pages. We then looked at how we could format some of the blocks. We know we can access that on the right-hand side, and we could also get the pop-up menus that appear for formatting when you select the block in the middle of the page. We then looked at the H5P plugin. We now know how to enable it from the plugins on the left-hand navigation. We know how to browse and search through all the different H5P content types that are available. The demonstration we did was around how to customize an image hotspot, where we added hotspots with images and text onto a map of the Grampian. We then added the H5P hotspot to a blog post by using the shortcode, and we could see we could interact with it in the blog. We've also shared some examples of the H5P in the chat, and we looked at how to enable the accessibility plugin. Jackie is now going to add some quick questions into the chat just so we can get some information. And if there's anything else that you'd like to find out about Glow Blogs, then please email the email address that you can see on the screen. We'd also be super keen to find out how you are using Glow Blogs, especially in your class or with your school or with your learners. So if you could tag us on Twitter or X using the hashtag GlowScot, that would be really useful. So what I'm going to do just now is stop the recording, and then we'll pop into the chat and see if there's any questions.